Unsolicited advice.
What you whispering for? Yo, what's unsolicited advice? Take it or leave it. For some of y'all that don't know, 5 years from now, it'll be 2030. And there's going to be a lot of things that us as human beings, we're going to stop doing or stop using within the next 5 years. Especially with the trends of technology, culture always, the culture always changing, and just the environment around us. It's going to be a lot of things we're going to stop doing. There's going to be a lot of things we're going to stop using. So let me break down some of the things that you might as well go on and get prepared for, that are either not going to be around no more, or you're just going to stop doing. So, let's talk about the daily habits or just your social behavior first. Right now, the whole, we get on our phones and we type manually, right? But you have a lot of apps now, or just your phone, that will just do voice commands. So that whole typing manually, that'll go away eventually. AI is kind of taking over that right now. So voice commands and AI text generation will replace a lot of the need for typing messages, typing emails, and even content creation. I mean, think about like what I'm doing right now. I can get on CapCut or what's the other one? OBS, just different, apps or whatever, and it can do it for me. It can do everything for me. I can just get on the AI part and it'll do all for, do everything for me. So that'll be taken away. Memorizing information. With AI, once again, AI is taking over, but with AI personal assistants, people will rely less on memory and more on AI keeping up with everything. Especially like if you're working in corporate America, you're so used to hiring an assistant. They're going to start getting rid of those assistants because, now you got Copilot, you got GPT, you got, you got so many different things that can keep up. You got so many cloud apps or different things that can keep up with your likes, your dislikes, your information, everything, to where it can let you know. All you got to do is just ask it and it'll tell you. Another thing is digital IDs, payment apps, biometric verifications. Those will likely be replaced by traditional wallets. Those will replace traditional wallets, and especially in most urban areas. You won't have wallets no more. You won't even see cash anymore. People will probably look at you crazy if you walk around with cash on you. So, just carrying physical wallets, it's not going to happen no more. You're going to have digital IDs, you're going to have payment apps, biometric verifications that will control all that. I don't even think you have banks anymore, hardly. Money in the grave, if you ask me. You better bury that fucking money. Biometrics, though. Face, fingerprints, retinas, your retinal scans, pass keys. You're starting to see that a lot more. Those are replacing passwords. So you're gonna start seeing that, for all y'all that keep forgetting your passwords and stuff. That's kind of a good thing. But for them to be able to scan your face and fingerprints and your retina, you got a lot of people, especially what do you call them? The conspiracy theorists. They're not really liking all that. They don't want nobody scanning nothing, so. But you might as well just get ready for it, because it's happening, if it ain't already. Tech, a lot of technology, especially devices, are going to be on the rise. This whole owning traditional smartphones. You're going to have wearable glasses, smart rings. You're going to have neural interfaces. They'll start taking, they start to edge out flash screen smartphones too. So you're going to have those too. So, those things are going to take the place of, your traditional smartphones. With your handless devices where you don't have to use your hands. You can just be walking around and use, you know, some type of interface. So voice controlled, AI driven interfaces, you know, like Hey, you know, like Alexa and Siri and stuff like that. It'll replace, you know, your remote controls and things like that, which it already is. But you won't see remote controls. Just won't happen. Everything will be voice activated. One of my favorites, but I'd like to see how it's going to go, I think, is charging with cords. You're not going to see that. You know, you're going to have wireless charging mats or over the air, like over the air charging. You're going to have that. It's going to be far more common, which I like that a little bit because, you know, Lord knows you're either going to forget your charger or your charger's not long enough to stretch to where you're at or whatever. You know, it's always a hassle. But I can see that coming. You know, autonomous vehicles. You know, I think autonomous vehicles will take over short haul transports, you know, and delivery, especially in certain cities, especially thriving cities like California and Washington, maybe New York. I don't know if New York will trust all that because people will be trying to steal it. I don't know. But autonomous vehicles are like, you know, just little AI vehicles running around. It won't be humans. It'll be AI vehicles delivering your packages and deliveries and stuff, or transporting you. You're going to see a lot more of that instead of humans, which for me, I'd rather just have a human. You know, I don't want it, you know, taking me somewhere I don't want to go or delivering some stuff I ain't asked for or whatever. But it's coming. You know, like products and materials. That's another thing that'll start changing. So like, you know, of course, DVDs, Blu-rays, CDs, physical media will be obsolete, you know, because streaming is where it's at. You know, you can get everything streaming where you don't have to have all this physical stuff. Now, I'm not saying that physical stuff isn't something you don't want to collect, because it'll turn into a collectible. And you will have people that will buy it after a couple of years because it'll be vintage or whatnot. So that's the thing. Another thing I don't think people realize, but it's going to happen, is using single-use plastic bags. So those plastic bags at the store, you know, they'll be banned in many places. So they'll start probably using like biodegradable stuff, you know, that'll be more standard, because it's kind of dangerous, even though, you know, we love, you know, bagging them all up into one bag and putting them up under the sink or somewhere to use them when we're taking out trash or whatnot. You know, hey, if you're from the hood, you know. Eating meat daily will change, because now they're doing lab-grown meat, you know, and plant-based meat, and that'll be the alternative, and it'll be cheaper, because that's what they're doing right now. Like we're already frustrated from the amount of money we have to spend on meat. So what they're gonna do is they're just gonna replace it with this lab-grown meat, and which I'm gonna start doing is plant-based meat, because it's cheaper. You know, I'm gonna look out for that. It's the reason why they jack those prices up, because they want you to eat that lab-grown meat. You know, you might want to think about going vegan too, or start learning how to grow your own shit. What else? The clothes we wear. You know, you're gonna have more eco-conscious fashion, like I was talking about just now. A lot of stuff's gonna be biodegradable, or just, you know, more organic, you know, instead of things that can harm you or harm others or other living things. Or you're gonna have digital clothing. You know, they're already doing that 3D scanning stuff for avatars or social media. You know, that's on the rise. So, like, in a couple of years, I'll be sitting here naked, but you'll see me fully clothed, you know, in whatever uniform I want to choose. You know, whatever clothing I want to choose. Think about that. It ain't just going to be on video games. Like, human beings are going to be doing it. You know, and I have another video about that when we talk about socializing and stuff like that. which will be crazy. You imagine somebody butt ass naked trying to doing a streaming video, but the whole time they got clothes on. You know, that's gonna be crazy. Work and travel is gonna change. I mean, you're already seeing these airplanes blowing up in midair, crashing and stuff. You know, you like I talked about earlier, you got robots driving vehicles now, or you know, AI driving vehicles or whatever. So just commuting to work. You're gonna have hybrid and remote work models that'll become more standard. You know, especially for knowledge-based jobs, everything's gonna be hybrid and remote. So people are just gonna be working from home, which part of me doesn't mind that, because if you're not a people person, or you're just tired of the stuff that you deal with down at work, it's a little bit more tolerable when you do it from home, you know, because you're in the comfort of your own home. People are going to start taking more short domestic flights. I think that'll be more common. I think people are going to do high-speed railroads. I think that they're going to start building those. I think you're going to have electric air taxis. That'll be something crazy to see. You know, stuff up in the air, but definitely the railroad system, I think they're going to start using that. They're already building up under us as we speak. I know for a fact they're building stuff up underground. They got to be. I mean, it's smart if you think about it. You know, but what else? I'm gonna wrap this up. Try to keep it short and sweet. Learning, definitely learning in media. You know, like learning things in media. That's going to be huge, because that's what everything's about now. Everything's about research, getting knowledge. You know, of anything is power. So you're going to have a lot of people learning without AI tutor tools. You know, you're going to have adaptive, like AI tutors will become more normal in schools for self-education. So, you know, adaptive AI tools. That's because you can't get away from it now. You know, you got people that's getting on some of these apps, and the apps are doing their essays and their book reports and stuff for them. You know, so where they don't have to do it. So, you know, you're going to get that. You're going to get a lot more of that. TV. I think TV will build, you know, we're already doing streaming right now. So television is going to change a lot. I think on demand streaming is already taking over. So you won't have scheduled programming. I think it'll just, you'll pick everything that you want to see, and that's what you will pay for. Which I like, because, you know, you remember they'd have you paying like $150, damn near $200 for internet and cable, and you really wasn't watching cable, you just needed the internet. So, you know, all that'll change. You know, Xfinity can't make money if they don't, you know, add more things or try to find a way to adapt. And they had to. They started selling phone services. And, you know, they already was making money off of internet. You know, they sell streaming apps and stuff like that. They got a lot of different things, but you have to. You got to adapt. But, yeah. A lot of things are going to be obsolete by 2030, I'd say. So get ready for it. Get used to it. I know for some of y'all, you're going to be frustrated because certain things you don't want to change because we're comfortable with it. But learn to adapt. Learn to adapt. If you learn to adapt, you can survive. Don't let it get to you. But that's just unsolicited advice. You can take it or leave it.